The dynamic duo, the twins, and which one is which are all phrases I've grown up hearing. For our entire lives, my twin sister and I have been a two-in-one package, two peas in a pod, never apart for more than a week at a time. However, the end of this school year will change all of that. This fall, Maddie and I will move into different college dorms, moving on from sharing a room since birth, eat meals every day at least 100 miles apart, join different friend groups, and live apart from one another for months at a time. Telling you I am terrified would be an understatement. Maddie is everything I want to be, inspiration for everything I do, and the better half of me. She's always kind, resilient, and incredibly clean and neat, to the point of passive-aggressive tendencies when I leave my stuff in the wrong spots. Every day, I am in awe of her patience, wholesomeness, and spontaneous energy. Maddie is always organizing, checking off her to-do list, double-checking homework, and somehow always has time and energy for an impromptu dance party in the dorm, a movie night, or a round of spikeball or tennis. She is everything I am trying to work on myself about, and the thought of no longer being able to see my best role model scares me more than I care to admit. We've collected many memories together, a lot of which ended in either laughter or shouting matches. I still have the bruise from when you threw me off the jet ski, and I still laugh at your ability to come into the kitchen and destroy any attempt at making breakfast in under 5 minutes. When we swam together, though I hated it and purposely sabotaged my races, I was always proud to call you my sister. You became faster and more dedicated while I was still wearing my swim cap rolled up my ears and plugging my nose while diving. You have always been able to overcome any discomforts and challenges like those in your path, whether it be in sports or school. Recently, you've been stealing my clothes and my snacks, picking out what you want mercilessly, regardless of my indignation. Maybe this is revenge for stealing your Cheerios when we were toddlers, but secretly, I will miss this. I would change my plans for you at the drop of a hat, run 1,000 miles to be with you, and even give you my kidney if it came down to it. But no, you are not allowed to borrow my shirt. I hope we can spend the time left doing everything we love, screaming at each other at the top of our lungs about nothing important, you dragging me out of bed at 2 a.m. to go climb a mountain in utter darkness with rattlesnakes, and wakeboarding at sunrise until we can finally land new tricks. I'm going to miss you like you took half of my world with you, because you will. Thank you for always being the better half of me, and thank you for being the best role model I will always look up to. Love, Emmy.
All right, so Gabe Quas, my chapel speech. So ever since I was a little kid, basketball has been a huge part of my life. Both my parents played in college, and so I was raised with the ball in my hands. Up until about 5th grade, in Suffield, we all played together on the rec ball team. And after that, travel basketball became an option for us. So I was very excited for this new opportunity to keep playing with my friends. And when tryouts came around, I thought I played well, but it was quite the opposite. I thought I would make the team, but when it was announced, I was disappointed to not find my name on the list. I promised myself I'd work harder, make the team next year, but just like that, when tryouts came around, I was cut again. And again the next year, and then again the next. It was a cycle repeated until I started 9th grade, and I was pumped up to get a new opportunity to play, and I took advantage of it. I made the freshman team, and everything seemed to get back on track. I barely played throughout the year and was often discouraged, but but I had to remind myself I was still on the team and still part of the program. When the season was over, I was excited to keep working and make the JV team the next year. When the time came around, I was met with some unfortunate news though. I was cut again. It was devastating to me and I really wanted to quit basketball for good. I was done with the sport, but my dad convinced me to keep at it because he understood the potential and future that I could have in basketball. When my junior year came around, it felt like being on the freshman team all over again. I made the team but ended up sitting the bench all season and felt extremely overlooked. And once again I wanted to quit, but I just knew I couldn't. I was starting to realize that I could be great, I just needed to keep working. But then senior year was the exact same thing. I got hurt and was never given the opportunity to prove myself and work back into the lineup. By the time the season was over, I was ready to check out basketball completely, but then a new opportunity arose. I was given the option of taking a post-grad year here at Suffolk Academy. My family thought it was the best thing for me and they worked hard to make it happen. I knew I'd have to work harder than ever if I wanted to prove myself here and achieve my goal of playing at the next level. Once I stepped foot on campus, I knew people had my back. Coach Reese and Coach Brown believed in me fully and gave me opportunities I wouldn't have had elsewhere. Their faith pushed me to work harder and gave me the motivation I needed to achieve my goals. For that, I am forever grateful for their guidance. Along with my parents' unwavering faith in me, I am now ready to begin the next chapter.
I'm ready. Stories, whether they are movies or books, are a large part of my life. One movie that stands out amongst the rest is Dunkirk by Christopher Nolan. There were 400,000 British, French, and men trapped on the northern coast of France, and you are immediately put in the perspective of an English soldier barely surviving his journey to the beach from the city surrounded by Germans. Germany had an apparent advantage in military technology compared to the British and French, and this can be seen in every scene with combat. For most, survival is the only goal. However, Dunkirk also puts you in the perspective of a fighter pilot resorting to landing in enemy territory to save hundreds of his comrades. At the same time, you are one of the civilian yachters voyaging to Dunkirk to save soldiers. Throughout the whole film, you feel an overwhelming sense of fear and the strong desire to return home from every soldier. The reason why this movie is so great to me is that it has the ability to make you feel the same ups and downs of war as the soldiers. By using facts and accurately portraying the war, a fictional story is told in a way that makes you feel something that a British soldier felt in 1940. The film plays Winston Churchill's speech in the final scene saying, "We shall go on to the end. We shall fight in France. We shall fight on the seas and oceans. We shall fight with growing confidence and growing strength in the air. We shall defend our island, whatever the cost may be. We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight on the landing grounds. We shall fight in the fields and in the streets. We shall fight in the hills. We shall never surrender." You end the film listening to a radio broadcast everyone in England heard in 1940 and are able to feel a glimpse of what the soldiers felt. In my senior topics class last year focusing on fictional storytelling, we read The Life of Pi and looked into two different versions of the story and why they were told. The story was told about a boy on a lifeboat after a large shipwreck holding zoo animals. In the first version of the story, a tiger, an orangutan, a hyena, and an injured zebra and Pi all end up on the survival boat after the wreck. In the second story, the actual story told at the end of the book, it's Pi, his mom, a cook, and an injured worker. In both stories, Pi is the only one left alive, but with the one in the animals, the tiger survives with Pi. Pi chooses to remember the one with the tiger rather than the real one, but as the reader, we choose that one so we can feel what Pi went through. The first story might not be accurate, but it puts us in the same mindset as someone going through an experience such as Pi or even the soldiers at Dunkirk. Then that is the real story. Reading and watching fiction is very important to me because it allows you to see the world through someone else's eyes and can help everyone get more perspective on their own situations. Thank you.
At Suffolk Academy, sports have a large influence on our culture. Students rally together and show up to games to cheer our fellow Tigers on. I'm thrilled to say that I've been a part of multiple sports teams at Suffield and would like to share my experiences with you all. Freshman year was the beginning of my journey with FC Tiger B. I had tried out for the thirds team, but I got cut. I may have been disappointed then, but little did I know it was a blessing in disguise. On the team, I enjoyed playing soccer during practice and cheering my team on from the bench during games. Being a bench player for FC Tiger B was the most exhilarating experience of my life. The atmosphere was exciting at each game. Adrenaline pumped through my veins as I got ready to cheer on my teammates and yell from the sidelines. This went on for every game for 3 years in a row. I am so glad to have been a veteran bench player and a role model as well as a mentor for those who would succeed me. My winter experience was on forts basketball. Freshman year, my coach was Mr. Cleary, a very nice man who was experienced in coaching basketball and wanted the best for his team. What was nice about the team was that Mr. Cleary wanted us to improve, but also have fun at the same time. I was such a bucket that I did not need improvement, swishing threes in practice like it was nothing. Michael Greco and I were throwing alley-oops and dominating on the court. We led our team to a solid 3-8 record. Come the next 2 years of basketball, Mr. Cleary retired and Mr. Warren is our new coach. I feel as though Mr. Warren did not recognize my talent and the absolute unit I was on the basketball court because I ended up benching nearly every game. When I was put in once, I splashed a quick 3 and got subbed out immediately. I guess Mr. Warren thought I was too much of a threat to the other team and didn't want me to cause a blowout. My final sports experience of Suffield Academy was on thirds tennis, the one sport where I could not bench because tennis has no such thing. We didn't really play any matches versus other schools, and all we did was fool around during practice. Tennis was one of the most relaxing sports out of the 3, except when I would accidentally get hit with a tennis ball where you would really not want to get hit. I'm disappointed that I could not have gotten to be a part of these teams for one last year, but all the experience I had during my time playing on them will last with me forever. Thank you for listening to my speech, and in the short time I have left at Suffield, I am more than happy to be a mentor for anyone who feels qualified to follow in my athletic footsteps.
Hi everyone, my name is Aaron Lang and I'm a postgraduate here at Suffield Academy. Although I was hoping that I would escape and not have to do a chapel speech, yet here I am. With the global pandemic finally showing signs of easing up, it is easy to reflect back on how much we have all changed throughout the pandemic. Although we can reflect, this chapel speech is about personal change. Coming from a public school just a few towns over in Talon, Connecticut, to a small private school with more expected was quite the change. From going to a place with people I have grown up with my entire life to a place that I was a stranger. Many people had friendships since their freshman year, and I was the new senior. With a vast amount of pressure and stress, the extra year seemed like a mistake. From being home with my brothers and family all the time, then to getting to see them once in a while. From having family to hang out with and friends to having none. It was a whole new world. Some people don't know what it's like to transfer from a public school system to a private school system, but I can tell you the expectations are raised far more than you can imagine. My mom went to Suffield Academy all 4 years of her high school, and I just happened to follow suit. My mom used to try to get me to go to Suffield when I was a freshman, but thinking that I knew more than her at the time, I pushed back against her. This has turned into one of my biggest regrets in life. The transition from having awful teachers who are just there to spit out knowledge and don't elaborate, to having teachers who care about their students and want their students to succeed in life is quite revealing. The sports teams were managed much more disciplined and a lot more organized. At Tolland, although being one of the nicer public schools, it was a disaster. I used to hate going to football practice because of the same thing over and over and over again. But then, Coach Brown and Coach Gamir changed that. He made it fun, and we actually learned some things from it. He is one of the only good things, on top of others, that have come from this decision to do a postgraduate year. And one of the most important things about the postgraduate year was that Suffield Academy believed in me and gave me a second shot at college. For Suffield, I was most likely going to end up at some community college no one was ever going to hear of. So looking back on it, the transition from a public school to a private school may not have only just changed my outlook on things, it may have also changed my future.
Good afternoon. My name is Khalil Majid, and I'll be presenting my chapel speech today. I am from Morristown, New Jersey, and I play football and lacrosse. A special interest that I have is that I like to learn about the science of time travel and the multiverse. The multiverse is a hypothetical group of multiple universes. In my free time, I like to watch videos on YouTube or TV shows about the time travel because it makes me think about what could be. A time that is special to me is the time when I tore my ACL. 2 years ago, I tore my ACL in a lacrosse game that ended my lacrosse season and would force me to miss my junior football season. Finding this out devastated me, making me think that I would never be able to get recruited and play any sports at the next level. One thing that helped me keep my spirits up during this whole process was listening to music, more specifically listening to Nipsey Hussle. One song that is important to me by him is Perfect Timing. This song is important to me because of the message that is portrayed by Nipsey. The first two verses, I know perfect timing feels like I'm too late, and I know I'm still great in spite of my mistakes, really spoke to me because at times I felt that I was worthless and lesser than all my friends because of what had happened to me. But those words encouraged me to believe in myself, especially when no one else did. Also, Nipsey's idea of perfect timing to me is supposed to be represented as God's timing. As a religious man, I believe that God's timing is always perfect. While on the road to recovery, it took me some time to realize this, but the more I believed it, the more I realized that God doesn't make mistakes, and I would bounce back from this injury. And that's what I did. And now I'm committed to the University of Michigan State to play football at the next level, something I have always dreamed of doing. I would like to leave off with this message. Even when times look rough or nothing seems to be going your way, just remember to be patient and have faith in yourself. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jake Plage. I'm a PG from Bedford, New Hampshire, and I will be reading my college essay about how I made a mistake and how I moved on from it. We had reached the spot where we had seen the two grizzly bears run into the woods. We stopped. Everyone looked around, unsure of who was willing to go first into the woods. After doing one sweeping gaze of the group and seeing that no one was going to step forwards, I took 2 steps and said I would lead. The night before, we had been told a story about a former group that was mauled by a bear in the exact same spot as us. We were told in graphic and gory detail that would cause many of us to remember that story for the rest of our lives. The story was one of the root causes of our fear, as what happened to them could possibly happen to us. Throughout the entire span of our hike, we had seen fresh bear prints and bear scat that had caused the story to lurk in the back of our minds. I continued forwards with the rest of the group following close behind. There was a rush of adrenaline that heightened my senses to new levels. I was on edge. Any small sound would cause my head to whip around to see where it came from. Once I was about 20 feet into the woods, I had realized that I could not see through the brush at all. My visibility had dropped to 30 feet, and I knew that there was this risk when I came to Alaska for 2 weeks of hiking and kayaking. But this danger had never felt so prominent. I had unclipped my bear spray and taken the safety off, as I could never tell if there was going to be a bear around the next tree. We were making our way down a hill to a river that we would eventually have to cross, when I heard the sound of crunching and rustling leaves. I took my eyes off my feet for 1 second to investigate the sound. In that 1 second, I took 1 step, slipped, and the arm that was holding the bear spray had shot up into the air and accidentally pulled the trigger. I watched in awe and shock as what I had just done. The cloud of bear spray was moving quickly with the wind towards my group. Before I could say anything, I heard coughing and gagging from my group, as bear spray is 10 times more potent than pepper spray. I sat in regret as I watched the rest of my group get over how potent the bear spray was. I put the safety on and quickly handed the bear spray over, as I had just made a huge mistake and no longer wanted the responsibility of holding the bear spray. However, I continued to lead the group as I felt I was in debt to the group that I had just sprayed. I cautiously made my way down to the river, where we had crossed without any issues, and continued to our campsite. Once we had reached the campsite, I immediately grabbed my journal and started reflecting on what I could have done better or could have done differently. Even though it was in the past and there was nothing I could do now to change it, I still dwelled on what happened. I sat there upset with myself, as I knew I should never have taken the safety off my bear spray. The people in my group told me it was okay and that they were not hurt, but that had not changed how I felt about the situation. Even the instructors came over to console me and told me that everyone makes mistakes and that it's okay. Looking back on the situation, it has helped me learn how to make a mistake, own up to the mistake, move on, and learn from it. Whether it be on the basketball court, lacrosse field, or in the classroom, I have learned the importance of owning up to a mistake and not blaming others or making excuses, which made me a better person. Thank you.